The Front Row Show does not reflect the views of Utah State Athletics, or its affiliates.
Excuse me, what the hell's going on out here?
I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational, but that just wouldn't be our style.
Stick this in your trophy case.
Aggie fans, we're joined today by a special guest on the Front Row Show, Utah State Athletic Director Scott Barnes.
Scott, when you look at Utah State, we've kind of come through the storm that was conference realignment, and you look at where we're at now entering the Mountain West. Hopefully the conference realignment has calmed down a little bit. So what's on your plate next as athletic director here at Utah State?
Well, you're so engaged in trying to get into the neighborhood, if you will, in this case, the Mountain West Conference, that you fight to do that. Now you're in, and some of the same challenges and things that you're working on to get in carry you through in your first few years, and that's really getting better, developing your programs, from leadership changes to funding, to building facilities. We have an unbelievable platform to work from. That is the Mountain West Conference, from television exposure to regional rivals that are historic rivals, and so many opportunities. So how do you take advantage of those opportunities and leverage those opportunities to deliver the mission to your student athletes? And that's excellent experience in the classroom, on the field of play, and getting them ready for the next chapter of their lives after athletics. So that's where our focus is, and it is all put into a strategic planning process and a 5-year plan in terms of how we invest in our programs.
I think one of the key figures in the rise of Utah State athletics over the last couple of years has been President Albrecht and his support of Utah State's athletic mission. I'm curious on your relationship with him and how involved he really is with Utah State athletics.
We've got a great relationship, and I've got great respect for Stan. He was one of 18 members of the Division I Board of Trustees, Ncaa Board of Trustees. Just stepped off that appointment, so that tells you his knowledge and ability in terms of understanding athletics. He understands how important it is. Again, I liken it to the front porch, not the most important room in the house, but the most visible, and what that visibility can do for a university. And I think we've been great partners in moving lots of initiatives forward in athletics. And it's one thing for an athletic director to have a president that is knowledgeable, cares, and you can trust. It means everything to an athletic director. We have that here without question. He's done an incredible job of leading this university.
You speak about athletics being like the front porch of a house. I know you used that analogy a few years back when we were passing the new student athletics fee, and I think it's a great one. It feels now like it's the front porch of a mansion. We've got all these flashy new buildings, and you spoke of a 5-year plan. Were all these facilities and all these upgrades part of that initial plan when you came here 5 years ago?
We got a lot of things on the board, and for us, none of those move without raising private funds to do that. So as much as we wanted to, it was really about cultivating relationships and making the compelling ask and prioritizing those. And so we did that, and we're able to complete the Strength and Conditioning Center. The Wayne Estes Center is moving forward. That'll be open in April, and we still have some fundraising to do. But those are all things that were on the docket. In our strategic planning process this next year, we want to do a more comprehensive master plan that would take us 10 years out in terms of facilities development. So that's one of our goals this year, is to hitch on to the university master plan and really develop a long-term vision for what's next. A lot of the projects that you've seen come up were what I would classify, and maybe Stu as well, as no-brainers, right?
Yeah.
And so we got those done, and we've got some other no-brainers. But long-term, there's some other things that we've got to prioritize and really incorporate into that master planning.
You talk about reaching out to private donors, and they're obviously a crucial part to any athletics department. When you got here, was there any specific needs or wants of those donors that you were able to identify that maybe previous leadership overlooked or didn't quite see, new opportunities that you saw in this place?
Well, I think anytime you are new, you have an opportunity to cast a new vision and get people excited. And our development team has done an excellent job of filling the pipeline with prospects. And then we have so many great cases to articulate to our donors. And really, as much as we can, we want to be donor centered. We want to bring a project that fits the donor's interests and abilities to fund. Sometimes we are in a position where the need isn't quite a match, but if you're compelling enough in terms of the need, that donor comes around, and so a lot of that. But I'd say that the things that we were able to do is we've increased our activity in terms of cultivating donor relationships, and our development office has done a tremendous job of that. We're out there; it's a priority for me. I bring 23 years of development experience to the job, and it's a priority to me. It's having a strong development team and understanding and keeping folks accountable to the activity levels to create those opportunities to ask.
That cultivation's got to be a little easier with a top 25 football team, right?
It is, and the buy-in is easier. And what happens is you make that, as donors make those investments, what I love to talk about is a return on investment, and I like to look back and say, all right, here's what you did for us. Look what you've helped change. Look at the culture you've changed. Look at the programs you've enhanced. Look at the return on your investment, whether it be that grade point average in the classroom, the wins on the field or court. There's a lot of ways, Matt, that you can point and say, here's the return on investment. So absolutely, when they see that, they have every confidence that it's going to continue.
I'm curious. One of the big things about an athletic director is making coaching hires. And there was a big hire made this last December with Matt Wells being appointed to replace Gary Anderson. I'm curious what it was about Matt that kind of sold you that he was ready for this responsibility, his first coaching job. But then also, you've had other coaching changes this past year, and you've filled those vacancies. What is it when a coach comes into your office for a job interview that you're looking for as the athletic director?
I think there's some things that are common, right, across all the hires that you're making, and then there's the specifics that you're looking for, because that particular program is in a position in its cycle that it needs something. Sometimes you need to rebuild. Sometimes you need to take the great work that's been done and add to it.
Yeah.
You need a coach that does any number of things, but there's a baseline to that, and the baseline is, finding somebody that has a tremendous pedigree and experience in what they've done, a great passion for the job that you have, high integrity and work ethic, and a communicator and a leader. And those are things you want to look for in everything you do. Then you get down to specifically where's your program and what needs fit beyond that. And that's, Matt, continuity was really important to us in terms of football. And continuity is really important if you have the right person. I've seen hires made for the sake of continuity that weren't the right person, but there was continuity. They had been there.
Yeah.
We had and knew we had the right person in Matt, the trust he had earned from the student athletes, the vision that he had cast, the job he did in the coordinator and quarterback's chair.
He's awesome.
And quite frankly, when you think about the pedigree, being with Craig Thorpe and having been at some of the programs he was at, he brought that as well. He's a tremendous communicator. He's earned the trust of those student athletes. So it became very apparent very quickly that he was the right person to carry out our plan for continuity.
As a former student athlete yourself, and on a more personal level, do you allow yourself to get competitive with athletics? Like when you watch a game, are you watching it from a fan standpoint, or as a former athlete, do you find yourself getting a little competitive within those games?
You're always gut checking because you lean towards competitive, right? It just gets hard to get that out of your system, and so I've got to continually check myself and say, wait a minute, I'm not a fan. I'm an administrator, and I've got to at times cool my jets, if you will, in that regard. So it's always, for me, I'm always challenging myself to calm down and understand the process and the long-term piece. You can live and die with wins, and that's not good on the heart.
True enough.
And if nothing else, you can take out any rage on the intramural court. Because I remember those games a few years back.
Yeah, I haven't played in a little while, and I do, but I haven't been asked. So if somebody asked me to play, I might just do that.
I mean, you just got the word out there. I don't know if you realize that.
You might be getting some questions.
So, I mean, plenty of teams could probably use a 6'7" center that can still throw it down.
Yeah, I'm getting older though, Matt. I'm getting older.
You still have plenty of spring left. I was there. I wasn't getting dunked on though. I was the guy that could actually body you up.
I remember that headband you used to wear. That was pretty.
I mean, you
impressive.
got to keep the sweat out of your eyes. It's the important things come game time.
How big of a deal is the Nike contract really for Utah State and for the athletic department? I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about our partnership with Nike, and a great part of that is Charlie Denson. And I'm just curious how big of a deal that really is for Utah State.
Well, I think I used the term platform earlier when I talked about the Mountain West, and when you think about Nike and the brand, student athletes resonate with it very much so, and so to have that brand, not only the brand but the be treated like a BCS program in terms of the rebranding of your own marks, and then the uniforms that are the cutting edge uniforms. Those things are really important to recruits and to the image of your brand, and that partnership is very, very strong. And Charlie has been a wonderful partner in that, as his staff has. And it's one thing to be a partner and to have that loyalties that Charlie has had as a former football play and Aggie alum, but it goes beyond that, and that's really the metrics and understanding. As they do their metrics with every school, they looked at us and they said, "This is a school on the rise. This is somebody, aside from our relationship with Charlie, this is somebody we want to invest in."
What's the gratification for you like in that sense? Because there's been drastic changes in 5 years since you got here in performance on the field and in the classroom and with facilities. Is it gratifying for you a little bit to have a brand like Nike look at what you've been doing and say, we see some real value there?
Yeah, it is. It really is. It just makes me think and smile about the student athletes we have that have come through our doorway and helped build it, and the coaches that have been leading that. And I think we put a really good team together, and they've done a great job of getting us to that point. And so it's fun to just sort of every once in a while in between the madness, just take a breath and smell the roses a little bit and look back on what you've done. And to have a Nike say, you're a school we're betting on. We see the trajectory. That's a pretty nice vote of confidence.
You talk about just taking a step back and taking a breath too. With all the conference realignment kind of calmed down now, is that a huge relief off of your chest?
It is, and every time that we cycle through a major challenge in our industry, and this last one being conference realignment, most of the dominoes, if not all of them, have fallen. Knock on wood, right? You never know. So then the next wave comes, and what's that next wave? And for us, it has to do with the governance model and the O'Bannon case and some of the things that you hear about and where all that'll go. And so we've got to keep our eye on that and be nimble and proactive and creative in terms of what all that means to us. And there's, we could spend a whole day talking about that. But, you can be on the right track, and you get ran over by a train if you just sit there. Mm-hmm. And so we keep moving. Got to keep moving.
Do you feel like if the waves get a little rocky again sometime soon here, do you feel better prepared now to be set up for a good situation and to kind of understand how the game works in the future?
I think in terms of conference alignment, are you speaking to?
Yes.
You've gone through that. I went through that in the when I was at Iowa State. We went through that going from the 8 to the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Did that even at Division II, my first AD job at Humboldt State. So this is my third go around with conference realignment, and yes, you that experience you gain in every battle makes you ready for the next one. I think more importantly, our institution is prepared. We're at a place where the value that people see in us is much different than it was, thanks again to our coaches and staff and student athletes, and that makes us every bit prepared.
How have you been received by the other athletic directors in the Mountain West and the other school presidents? What's your relationship like with them as you kind of work together, and Utah State being a new member into the Mountain West?
It's a great group of professionals, great colleagues in the Mountain West from top to bottom. I think, there's the new kid on the block sort of syndrome where there's this possibly, kind of a wait and see, about where we are and who we are. But what I love is our opportunity to educate, and the more we educate, the more we prove ourselves on the field, the more eye-opening there. And there's this sort of, and Craig Thompson really, when we finally got him to visit our campus, really had this view, and this was this view of I didn't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought I knew what Utah State was, but I really didn't know. And that's kind of where we're at with the Mountain West, is I don't think they know. And we're going to do everything we can to educate them and let them know that we bring great value to the conference, and we've got to show up on the field and do it, right? We've got to perform and in the classroom and work hard at it and stay focused at it, and we'll be there. So it's a growing transition process.
I remember a couple years back, I think it was Texas A&M does this study where they determine which athletic department is getting the most out of their budget relative to conference championships and their budget. And Utah State was number one in the country one year, and for a couple years right near the top. Now being in the Mountain West, and I imagine seeing big increases in season football tickets and TV revenue, what's it like having these new resources kind of at your disposal?
Well, we're not fat cats by any stretch. We're
No,
always on the
ways.
margin. We're in the bottom third of the Mountain West in terms of budget, and so we're always fighting. And those dollars that will come incrementally over time before we get to full equity in the Mountain West are being reinvested so that we can close the gap. I mean, it's really what we're doing is trying to close the gap, and by doing that, it means retaining great coaches. It means that we can even recruit at a higher level. And those sorts of things. So schools our size are always going to be challenged with the financial piece in terms of trying to grow and close that gap. We still are in the top, from the time that we were named most efficient in the country, we've been in the top 20 ever since. And it's been top 5, top 10. This year we're in the top 20. And part of that has to do with, we're still having success on the field, but our budget has grown. And that dynamic is I quite frankly, fellas, like us at 20 rather than number 1.
All right.
Because we're winning championships, but we're doing it with more resources against better competition.
Yeah.
Apart from your job at Utah State, is it next year that you'll be the head chair of the Ncaa selection committee?
Yeah, so it's a 5-year term, and I'm in
sweet.
my 4th year this year as vice chair, and then we'll get through this year, and then next year I will have painted on my forehead the bullseye, squarely painted on my forehead.
So everyone will blame you when their team doesn't
That's
get in.
That's exactly right.
All right.
So.
When you make a selection, is there such a thing as an eye test with a team, or is it just RPI? Like, what are the factors that go into the Ncaa selection committee?
So the beauty, I think, in my opinion, of this committee, made up of 10 members from all over, every region, every different sort of university, is that they bring their own subjective view. There's multiple criteria that we can use to make decisions. Unbelievable amount of information in front of us. But at the end of the day, we use whatever criteria we deem fit for our own specific viewpoint. And there is subjectivity, there is an eyeball test, there is it's not a computer. It's 10 professionals who care a great deal about the game coming to their own decision based on their studying, their experience, their viewing of games, their viewing and studying of the material that brings it to the decisions. And then, as we vote on teams, those votes are multiple votes on same teams before there's a majority and the multitude of us that finally agree. So there's literally hundreds of votes cast during that week process on teams.
Do you learn anything in these meetings, and not just about selection, but maybe about what other athletic directors, other professionals are doing at their schools that maybe you incorporate here, or do you guys not talk much about what's going on at your own schools?
In terms of the selection process?
No,
Or
in terms
just
of
kind of what's happening.
Yeah, just kind of what's happening
on the landscape. Oh, absolutely. We spend way too much time together. We're together. I think there's 45 days a year plus, and in various. So we become very close friends. And yeah, there's off time. You're having dinner. You're having some ice cream at the the big advantage to being on this committee is you get unlimited ice cream bar at the end every night.
Nice.
So
There you go.
it's incredible. Gain 10 pounds in the process.
Hold on. Do you mean to tell us the Aggie ice cream limits what you can have up here? Because they ought to just be sending over whatever you want.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that the NCAA does give you as much ice cream as you need. To answer your question, those relationships are very strong, and you get to know those folks. So you're swapping stories, you're comparing notes all the time on various facets. And that really is a very rich part of the experience, right? Of being able to sit down with the AD at Oklahoma or the AD at Wake Forest or wherever else. And what's interesting is that you all have similar issues. Really. There tends to be additional zeros added to some of those issues that we don't have in terms of the magnitude. But you have a lot of the same issues, or you're bound to come across a similar issue, and so you can talk to each other about how they did it and how you want to do it, and it's really a great part of the experience.
Last question. We here on the Front Row Show, we are on a crusade to build the tailgating environment for a football game, particularly Matt. He's going to be the lead tailgater.
Awesome. Taking pride in this.
Good.
So we're big on tailgating culture and getting that out and more active in the community. Do you have a favorite tailgating recipe?
Do I have a favorite tailgate recipe? I always love the baby back ribs.
Nice.
I got to tell you that, and we start moving on into kind of the late October, November. Man, a good chili on a cold day is another favorite. So.
Well, anytime you need a good chili or a good baby back ribs, you'll know where to find us. We're in the parking lot.
800, right? You're going to be on 800 again? You're going to be in the parking lot.
I've been frequenting the parking lot for a couple of years now. We've been building our own little small community, making friends with the other people around us.
Good for you.
So all we need to do is expand now.
I'll drop by.
You pop in anytime.
Excellent. Scott, thanks for joining us today on the Front Row Show. Welcome anytime. We hope you'll stop by again.
We'll do. I've enjoyed
Excellent.
it.
Let's have some more good stuff to talk about soon.
I agree.
Sounds good.
For the Front Row Show, I'm Jeff Browning.
And I'm Matt Sonnenberg.
Go Aggies.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Aggie fans, thanks again for listening to this episode of The Front Row Show. Be sure to download all our archived episodes on iTunes, follow us on Twitter at USU Front Row, like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/USU Front Row, and subscribe to us on our new YouTube channel at youtube.com/USU Front Row. Go Aggies.